Good morning, Brian. Are you up? All right. Season's greetings. How you guys doing today? Good. How are you guys doing today? Good. All right. You know, it's hard when we're live streamed. It's hard for everybody in the audience in the ether world to know that there's 500,000 people here. So we want you to speak up a little bit. Say that one more time. Who's here? Yeah, nobody's here. Is that right? How are y'all doing today? Good. There you go. Okay, that's the way to be. That's the way to do it. My name is Jim Lindsley, and I'm with Arkansas Society of Free Thinkers, which is what this meeting is all about. We have a speaker today and some other stuff to do. And I have instructions here, which I'm sure everybody in the ether world needs to know. The bathrooms are in the back, so be sure. Well, I don't know, wherever you are, they may not be in the back, but they are here. And we are a nonprofit devoted to maintaining separation between religion and state, advocating a scientific and humanistic viewpoint and improving the lives of non-believers. I told some people that it was a secular organization, and they said, well, what does secular mean? And I think they were getting it confused with some other words that kind of sound similar to it, like sectarian and stuff like that. But this is a secular organization, so if you don't know what it is, kind of look it up. It'd be good to know. I'd like to mention something that's coming up. This is important, I think, and I think you would believe as well, that coming up this week at the House of Representatives, the Arkansas State House of Representatives, they are going to be considering and possibly voting on about 7 bills, Senate Bill 207 through 211. And each one of these bills is, their intent is to basically restrict how the citizens of Arkansas can propose a bill to be considered by the House of Representatives and the Senate and be passed. And from what I have seen, they are very, very restrictive. I would suggest for you to bone up on what's going on that. If you'd like to get hold of me, I'm Jim at shadowboxvideo.com. I can give you some information on it, and I will have some information on my Facebook group page as well. But it's very important for us to be involved in our government and make sure that they represent the people and not just certain selected interest groups. Okay. Anyway, that's that, along with the fact that the restrooms are in the back, are probably the most important things right now. I'd like to, I just got this notice here just about 2 minutes ago. It says we're a 501c3, so we can't promote candidates, we can't promote people, but we can promote legislation and ideas. So I'd like to introduce you for the next thing is our free thought of the day, which is okay. There we go. His name is Chris Barecki, and we're shaking hands for the photo op here. Have at it, Chris. Oh, by the way, I need that.
Thanks, Jim. Our free thought of the day comes to us from a frequent source of free thoughts, Bertrand Russell, who in 1943 wrote, "If an opinion contrary to your own makes you angry, that is a sign you are subconsciously aware of having no good reason for thinking as you do. If someone maintains that 2 and 2 are 5, or that Iceland is on the equator, you should feel pity rather than anger, unless you know so little of arithmetic or geography that this opinion shakes your own contrary conviction. The most savage controversies are those about matters at which there is no good evidence either way. Persecution is used in theology, not in arithmetic, because in arithmetic there is knowledge, but in theology there is only opinion. So whenever you find yourself getting angry about a difference of opinion, be on your guard. You will probably find, on examination, that your belief is going beyond what the evidence warrants. And so this is a good quote, I think, in this time when perhaps some of us may be harboring a bit of anger and frustration about things that you've read going on in the world, and that there is always below that a truth. There's always, beneath your anger reaction, there is a truth there. And a lot of it has to do with you, me, having to change. And so if you're angry about the way things are going in the world, if you're angry at other people, if you're angry at the news or at your families or at whomever, it may be that you are subconsciously defending against the need to change for yourself. Back to you, Jim.
All right. And now we have one more photo op. Smile at the camera. Wow, where are you going? Okay. Chris, thank you very much. Our next thing on the agenda is a free thought of the day, which is by Vern Bradley. Oh, excuse me, a skeptical sidebar. Okay, yeah, let's make sure we get that right. Skeptical sidebar with Vern Bradley. Come on up here for the photo op. Get this way. Okay, thank you.
Jim says that is because of, Chris, how do we put,
Just like that, I thought. I've got all that time.
we got him?
Up there. Okay.
Flinching, have patience. He's trying.
Just thinking about it.
We're warming up. I was told back in December I was probably going to need a new heart valve. I got a new heart valve 2 years ago. When I got that, when they were supposed to replace my mitral valve, my aortic valve, do a MACE procedure to stop arrhythmias, and they didn't replace the aortic valve. The surgeon said, it's doing all right like it is. It'll last for several more years. It lasted about 2 years. So when I was done that, I was speaking with people who'd had heart surgery before, and they all said, well, they're going to have to crack your chest again. Turns out that a procedure called TAVR, Trans-Aortic Valve Replacement, was done only on people that literally could not survive heart surgery for many years. From the beginning until about 3 or 4 years ago, you had to meet a lot of good criteria for it. Now they're doing it on people that they think we've just cut them open enough, that we don't want to do that anymore. And I have had 4 open heart surgeries, 2 as a youth, and 1 with this valve. And well, so that would make 3 open heart surgeries. And I've had a number of procedures where they used catheters to go up and look at things. So a couple weeks ago, went into the hospital and they put me under. They did a TEE where they look at your heart through your esophagus and take pictures. They did a heart catheterization where they went in through my wrist and through my jugular vein and looked at my arteries, and they came back with the verdict that I am eligible for TAVR, and I'm going to get that done. Thursday I go in to have blood tests and what have you, and then a week from this Tuesday I should have my valve put in. This is a whole lot better than the last time. Last time they were promising me 3 months recovery. It ended up being about 9 months. But they were promising me about 3 months recovery. This is about a couple of days of recovery because they will literally go in through my carotid artery, put a tube in, and replace it. This, if you know Marcy Kerlock did this for me years ago. I told her I wanted something for a logo for me. And I said I want it to look like the Iron Man arc reactor, but with a biological heart in it. and with a zipper on it to represent heart surgery. And that's what she came up with. A couple of years ago, back during COVID, she came up and she sent me a whole bunch of new ones that she had done with AI. And I said, I appreciate it. I like this. This is better. And she said, that's flattering that the one I originally sent you is what you like. Let's see. Okay. I hope you can see this. Can everyone see that? I can make it bigger. Well, I think I can. There we go. Okay. On the left is a bicuspid aortic valve. That's what I have, except mine is about a 3/4, 1/4 aortic valve.
Oh,
And so the blood doesn't flow through it like it ought to. That's a normal one. That's a bicuspid one. Mine is weird. It's a birth defect. Bicuspid aortic valve and aortic coarctation are the single most frequent birth defects in the United States. It's about 1% of kids are born with one or both of those. A woman told me one time that the Lord blessed me with a good surgeon that fixed my aortic coarctation when I was a baby. I said, well, he also blessed me with a bicuspid aortic valve. So there we go. That is the valve I'm going to get.
wow.
How big is that?
About like that.
So it won't hold candy.
I'm sorry?
It won't hold candy.
Yeah, well, no, but if you look, this is the flap. The flaps are up here, and we're about to look at this, and that's what it looks like on the catheter. They will put that catheter through my neck, through my carotid artery, into my subclavian artery, and go into my aortic valve. Into the aortic valve, and they will slide that in. Once that gets into position in the aortic valve, they will balloon it. They use a balloon to enlarge it. There's where the valve is crimped. There's where it's expanded. And that's what it looks like after they leave. They do not take out the existing valve. It crushes. When they open that thing up, it crushes it. This is the Edwards Sapien. This is the valve I'm getting, the Edwards Sapien valve. Transfemoral, transseptal. I've got some problems with calcium in my femoral artery, so they won't go up through my femoral artery. They're going through my carotid artery. And I couldn't find pictures of that, so I'm not sure they do it all that often. The catheter is used to thread a balloon device with the new valve attached to the diseased valve. The interventional cardiologist places, in my case it'll be an interventional cardiologist will place the artificial valve in the diseased valve, inflate the balloon. Once in place, they put I have a pacemaker. They put another pacemaker in that they can pace, that they don't have to deal with this. And once they get it in place, they speed up your heart to make the blood flow, expand it, and that way they'll know quickly if it's working right or not. And it crushes the other valve. The main concern I have is the possibility of a stroke from calcium breaking loose. What happens with a bicuspid aortic valve is it accumulates calcium, and that's what causes it. For 51 years, my heart worked just fine. When I found out I had it, it was still working just fine. I was hiking, I was backpacking and walking a lot. And it was only about 15 years later that it really started to become a problem. But hopefully this will fix a lot of that. And that may be the end of that's the end of my slides. My skeptical part here is I was told for a good year after I was pretty well convinced they would allow me to do a TAVR. I was convinced by a lot of people in the heart surgery community who were just not up on things, I guess, that it didn't matter, that they were not going to be able to do that because I wasn't sick enough. And it turns out that it's easier and easier and easier to get this done all the time. And this may eventually become the default for a lot of them. Mine wouldn't have, the first time mine couldn't have been done by default because they needed to look around. When I had my first 2 surgeries as an infant, they put talc in my pericardium, which is the sac that surrounds the heart. And I told the surgeon this. I said, you ought to know they did this. And he said, that could be a problem, adhesions from talc. And so when I finally woke up and was conscious enough to ask him, I said, but he said, didn't cause any problems. We were looking for it though. It was good to look for. So there we go. And if you are interested, HEARTBERN.com. That will take you to my Facebook page where I talk about all this. And I will, as soon as I wake up next Tuesday, I will say something about it. If I don't wake up, you'll know. Thank you.
Face the camera.
Jim says this is for a photo op, but the truth is this is left over from Toastmasters. You always shake hands with people.
Okay, all right, thanks, Bern. By the way, Bern's name is not Bernard. You want to talk about that? Okay, anyway.
I can spend 10 minutes on that.
Well, come on down.
We need to fill out the program.
We have some speakers here, and first of all, we have one more thing. All right,
Keep on.
okay. But we also, Chris is taking heart with this thing. Taking this to heart.
Just pull the thumb drive out and it'll go away.
Okay. Hi, Chris. How are you doing today? This is Chris Barecki. He's the president of ASF, Arkansas Society of Free Thinkers,
And I just scramble along.
and he's also chief engineer. Help me out here, Chris.
And I am looking for a slideshow.
A slideshow. Okay.
But yeah,
Okay. Well, I had another thing going on here. The next thing we have. Thank you. The next thing we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a little sidestep, little dance to make, take up some time while other things are being taken care of here. How are y'all doing today? Wait, who's first time here? I'm taking down my hand. Great. What's your name, though, sir? Will. And? John. Will and John. Somehow that goes together, doesn't it? Will and John. Yeah. There you go, buddies. Let's see. By the way, Jerry Schultze is here too. I learned how to pronounce his name correctly the other day. And Dawn is not here because she went down to Waco, I believe it is. And
She's in the body of Christ, Corpus Christi.
all right. Let's see.
That's what it means.
Let's see.
I have a question for Bert.
For Bern. Yes, I have a question for Bern. Yes, go ahead.
What symptoms do you experience with this valve problem?
I get tired. Went to the Walmart today, bought 2 bags of groceries, and I get very tired carrying them out to the car. If I'm walking and I walk slow, it doesn't do much. If I try to walk a little faster, I get exhausted, I get a short breath.
Brian, are you getting that?
Do you get any?
Brian, are you getting the audio on that?
You need to use this microphone.
Are you getting the audio on this? Okay, all right, we're good. Thanks, guys.
just a moment.
Do you have any angina?
Any what?
Angina?
Oh, angina, angina?
I work for a cardiologist, they all call it angina.
Depends how, yeah.
Okay, no, I don't have, my coronary arteries are clean. They looked at those the other day and said I didn't need any stents. So they're about as clean as they can get. I'm about to turn 67 next month.
Wow.
And to not need any stents at that age, I think's pretty good.
Yeah.
But the thing that showed up to me is after surgery, after my last surgery, I could walk. I could walk, to be honest, I don't know. After my last surgery, I could walk distances, I could walk 7 miles. I wasn't fast in doing it, but I could do it. And that gradually curtailed. And so now I'm at a point where it takes me 2 hours to walk 3 miles. About 3 echocardiograms back, I told the guy doing the echo that I had just finished my 5th marathon. And he said, "You run?" I said, "No, I walk." But I walked 26.2 miles, and he said,
Wow.
"If you're walking 26.2 miles, you're not ready for a valve replacement, and you will not be able to get a TAVR."
Oh,
So
no.
that's all changed because my ejection fraction has gone down quite a bit. And it's gotten serious enough that they, on the last echo, they looked at it and said it's time.
Can I ask what injection fraction you have now?
I'm sorry?
What is your ejection fraction now?
It's below 50. I think it was 35 to 40, which is it's too low to be comfortable.
Right.
And like I said, I can walk slow and walk a long way, but I can't walk in any decent speed without having to stop and lean on something and catch my breath.
So if anybody has any other question about heart things, Bern he's an expert on this. I would not trust him to operate on himself, though.
Well, insurance is looking at it, and I may have to do some of it myself.
There you go. Well, oh gosh, yeah. Hello. Right about now, come on in. We have a seat if you like. And right about now, we do what they call a member story, and I was designated to be the person to talk about that just now. So I've got to tell you something. We can be very effective in our government if we and just in daily life. You may think that you're just one person, but you do have the power to be very effective. I want to relate to you a story about, I was at the Robinson Auditorium one time, not too long ago, and there was a kind of a convention of sorts, but it was a very, shall we say, respectful convention. Everybody was quiet and considerate and everything. And they did there were several speakers and some slideshows and everything. And you could just, this was at the Robinson Auditorium, there's probably 4,000 or 5,000, it was a packed theater. And you could hear a pin drop. And during this, they had a slide presentation. They showed several people on the screen, and on the screen came RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it stayed up there about 20 seconds, and I just could not stand it, so I just started clapping, and everybody in that hall started clapping. You, as an individual, have the power to affect other people, but you have to take initiative to do that. So I just want to leave that with you. When you have a chance, take it. Yes, sir.
That's an old trick in Toastmasters.
I'm sorry?
That's an old trick in Toastmasters. If you're in a big crowd, what you do is get a couple of people. I've been in crowds before the same size. Nobody could hear the person talking in the microphone. So you get a few people and you start clapping, pretty soon the whole room quiets down.
Well, you can do that just one person.
Yeah.
All right. God, okay. I'm here to introduce our guest speakers today. They are, and I'm going to have Chris come up here and put this thing back where it needs to be, I think. Well, maybe this is good. Yeah, that's good. And that's it? No, this is it. That's it. Thank you. This is not a Mac, so I'm sorry, it's hard for me to deal with this.
Anyway, it says, this is written down, this is really cool. It says, thank you for your patience. I'm going, well, how do you know about that? All right, well, let me take my glasses off so I can actually read this. Thank you for your patience as I was getting the bios for our presentation this Sunday. Was I supposed to read this part there?
It was in my email. I got it to y'all super late.
I'm sorry?
It's
Oh.
the text below that.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Lauren Dixon. Can you raise your hand? There she is. Lauren Dixon is an Arkansas native that has worked for public service and nonprofit institutions her entire career. After watching members of her family and her community struggle through active addiction in her youth, Lauren became very passionate about substance use and prevention and harm reduction. Lauren began volunteering for CAHR, which is
Central Arkansas Harm Reduction.
Central Arkansas Harm Reduction, when she moved to Little Rock in 2022 and joined the board in 2024. She hopes to help dismantle the systems that penalize people who use substances rather than offering them the necessary resources and support for people. There we go. Got to get that out of the way so I can read it. For people to achieve sobriety or to make active steps toward a better future. She is an active member in the Little Rock volunteer and nonprofit space. You can connect with her through any of her roles. Grants manager for Arkansas Women's Outreach, board member for Pulaski County CASA, C-A-S-A, and executive community secretary of for the Central Arkansas Sierra Club, and park ranger for the city of Little Rock. Let's give a big welcome for Lauren.
Sorry, I was chopping.
Face it.
Oh.
Thank you. I'm gonna grab this stuff.
Well, while that's getting set up, I'll give a little preface for this, that our other board member who was supposed to be here, we were hoping to provide Narcan kits and have a table. I also haven't seen this presentation, he put it together, so if there's spelling errors or if I need to pause for a second to know what's happening behind me, please give some grace on that. But yeah, my name is Lauren Dixon. I'm on the board of Central Arkansas Harm Reduction. We used to be known as Central Arkansas Harm Reduction Project. Recently did a title change, not that major. But essentially what we do is we work with people who use substances and we provide naloxone. We also work with sex workers or people who are homeless to reduce things like hepatitis and HIV outbreaks within those communities. So we provide the tools and resources and oftentimes some case management as well. We provide referrals to other mental health services, to any of our clients who access our services. So you can kind of see the rest of our board down here in the corner. Our mission is very simple. We just believe that even though people use substances, that they're deserving of dignity and compassion and love as any human being deserves, regardless of their substance use or not. So that's just the aspect that we do with all of our work. So what exactly is harm reduction? When we hear the term harm reduction, it doesn't really tell you just in the term itself, but it essentially means we accept that people are going to use drugs. Not to use drugs and expect that to work. Human beings make poor decisions. All of us have a decision that we can think of in our life that we have made, and it wasn't great. Unfortunately, for some people, that does turn into lifetime addictions to things. So, and then also instead of just saying things like people just shouldn't use drugs, that sounds such like it's such a simple solution, but that's not how it works. There's a lot of reasons why people use drugs. It's very prevalent in the in-house community, but also people that you expect to have perfectly normal lives. People use drugs for a lot of reasons, and so it's our goal to be non-judgmental. And with harm reduction, we're meeting people where they're at. We're not expecting people to achieve sobriety before we give them services. We give them services regardless of their drug use status, and the goal is just to reduce harm. So if people are injecting heroin with dirty needles, with the state of Arkansas, we unfortunately cannot do clean needle exchanges, but we do try to provide things like alcohol cleaning pads. We do provide Narcan. I'm not sure if people know a lot about the mechanisms of drug use. People use heroin, they can heat it up in spoons, and if you're sharing needles and you're sharing spoons, you can spread hepatitis to people, you can spread HIV through unclean needles, and so we do try to provide like cotton balls for people to keep those methods cleaner. So we're just, if you're gonna inject heroin, how can we make it as safe as possible for you to not die? That's kind of the whole premise behind that. So many examples of common opioids, and likely some of us have had them in this room. If you've ever had surgery and you went home with hydrocodone, OxyContin, anything like that, those are opioids. And those are used more in medical settings, of course. But heroin is a pretty big one. And then also fentanyl. So people that use street drugs, unfortunately, even if you think that you are, say, taking cocaine, people lace drugs with fentanyl because drug dealers, it makes it cheaper for them. Fentanyl is very cheap. It is also very strong. So when people take the dosages that they're expecting to be able to take and it's laced with fentanyl, it will send them into an overdose because their body is not adjusted to that amount. So who is most at risk for an opioid overdose? So those who inject drugs, those who take higher dosages, so those may be chronic substance users, people who mix opioids with other pain medications, and then those taking opioids with pre-existing medical conditions. So I do also want to dispel the stigma that it's just people injecting heroin that are taking opioids. Just a little bit personally, my mom was addicted to opioids for about 15 years, and she started with prescription migraine medication, where a long time ago, it's not like a conspiracy, there's an entire documentary about it, but originally when OxyContin was released, the makers of that, Purdue Pharmacy, told pharmacists that it was safe and non-addictive. So doctors were giving that out to people like candy. And then people get addicted, inevitably. It was revealed that Purdue Pharma lied to the FDA, faked studies showing that it wasn't addictive. So of course people got addicted to that, and then that led to a lot of chronic issues of people. Now it's a lot harder to get opioids through pharmacies, so people then turn to street drugs because they still have the addiction that hasn't been fixed. Yeah, you can get it, people in nursing homes, people who are in the hospitals, you can get overdosed on opioids in the hospital. I mean, it's still drug negligence, but that can happen to you. So if anyone in this room, even if we aren't injecting drugs, are potentially at the risk of an overdose if we are in a medical setting or we are receiving opioids in some form. So we're going to talk about the signs of an opioid overdose, and then luckily Liz, thankfully, like I said, I don't have my tabling materials here with me, brought this. She keeps it in her car, but this is a naloxone kit. So this is what we provide to this is the version that we provide to our clients. So each kit, kind of have to shake to get them out. All right. So each of our kits comes in this nifty little bag. It explains the directions of how to use it, and then the steps, call 911, and a lot of times we hear people concerned on the street, even if you're just a bystander, oh, I'm afraid to call 911 because I'm scared that I will get arrested or I will get in trouble if I'm around somebody that's using drugs. That's not true. You are protected by the Good Samaritan law. You will not get in trouble regardless if you were participating in drug use or you just came across somebody on the street. So please always call 911 if you are coming across somebody that you think is overdosing. But with these kits, each kit has 2 needles and then 2 vials of naloxone. These are completely sterile. They're kept safe. And then maybe this one. This one is missing the information booklet, but they do come with information booklets as well if somebody's not familiar. We are shifting a little bit more away from the needles. We give these to our clients who are already familiar with drug use, but I am afraid of needles. I would do it if I came across somebody that's overdosing. I would be very nervous about it. But so we do give away nasal Narcan, which I will explain there. I did see some slides when I got a chance to get this just a couple of minutes ago about nasal Narcan, but we'll talk about some signs if you come across somebody that's overdosing. If they are unconscious, if their breathing is off, if they sound like they're choking, if they have discolored skin. So typically For people with lighter skin, that will look like blue fingernails and blue lips, but for people that have darker skin tones, you may just notice that their fingernails on their lips are a lot more pale. So just keep in mind that that may present differently. And then if you are able to get a look at their pupils, if their pupils are not reacting to light, that's another good sign. And a good way to tell if somebody is unconscious, you can do something called a sternum rub. So you can take the really bony part of your fingers like this and then rub them on your chest like this kind of hard. If you do it to yourself and you do it hard, it's not the most painful thing you'll ever experience, but it's uncomfortable. If somebody's not truly unconscious, that should be enough to get some type of response from them. So if you're doing that and they're not responding, that's definitely a time that you should call 911 and then administer Narcan if you have it on you. Fun thing to keep in mind, if they're not overdosing, giving them Narcan will not hurt them. It is like, I went to a training one time on this and the presenter gave nasal Narcan to themselves. No effects because they're not currently experiencing an overdose. So there's no harm that you can give to somebody by giving them Narcan, even if they happen to be diabetic and they're having a diabetic episode. It is like better safe than sorry to administer it if they meet these criteria here. Okay, and this is just another showing like the 3 primary things to look out for. If they match these 3 characteristics, they could be experiencing an overdose. Okay. So, like I said, sorry, I haven't seen this presentation, but some other things that you can try, like I said, the knuckle rub. If they are responding, check their ability to breathe, because one of the reasons that overdoses are so dangerous is it stops your ability to breathe, so you will eventually suffocate. So that results in death. But yeah, if they don't respond, call 911. Another key tip, don't mention that you think someone is overdosing. Sometimes first responders are super busy. We understand that. We have seen that there tends to be a faster response time when you do not mention that somebody's overdosing, and they also don't send police, which is the biggest thing, where sometimes people, there have been cases, unfortunately, where 911 is called for an overdose and police show up and they arrest the person after they are resuscitated from their overdose. So we don't want that. We don't want people to be criminalized for overdosing. Just mention that they are not breathing. Don't mention that you think that it's an overdose. Yeah. Stay with the person. You can administer the naloxone. I mean, if you just super have to go someplace else, it's fine, but it is best to try to watch them. The reason that we provide 2 vials, or in the nasal Narcan boxes, there are 2 doses of it, is you administer the first dose, and then I believe it's you wait 1 or 2 minutes, and then if they are still unconscious, then you administer the other dose. So you at least want to stick around long enough for either first responders or for them to show signs that they're able to breathe on their own again. So here's the steps. Okay, so nasal naloxone, like I said, I am sorry that I don't have a box with me, but they do come in a little box, and they look like this on the far right corner, where it is just, you get 2 of these, you take one, you peel the tops off, you press it into their noses, and then you tilt their head back just to make sure that you're not hitting anything important. It also opens their airways, and then you press the plunger in and it will administer that 1 dose. There's something called, like I said, it's helpful sometimes to have a second person here so we can like fully demonstrate, but you'll also rotate them into their recovery position, which is you have them on their side, make sure that their hands are not blocking their airways. It's very similar if you, somebody's super drunk and you want to make sure that they don't choke on their own vomit. You roll them onto their side and just make sure that their airways are clear and that there's no pillows or jackets or anything around them that could potentially suffocate them. Yeah, so here are some also common questions. If the Narcan works, do you still need emergency services? Yes. Once again, there's a reason that we have 2 doses. Sometimes 2 doses is not enough. And so at that point, hopefully, if you've administered the 2 doses and emergency services is here, they can take over from that. But it is better safe than sorry. Can I give somebody too much Narcan? And I did already talk about this. It will not hurt them. Watch somebody do a presentation where they gave it to themselves and it did not hurt them. And can a person revived from Narcan be dangerous? Sometimes. It's a very tricky situation where you want to help as a good Samaritan, as a bystander, but your safety is also important. When people are coming back from overdoses, it stops the overdose like this. We have effectively ruined their high. They may be upset, they may be disoriented coming back from that. Think of it also similar to somebody, if you've ever been around people that have seizures coming back. They may be confused. They have no idea who you are, why you are touching them. They're likely on the ground. So just keep yourself safe. Know that there could potentially be some agitation. I've never seen it, but I have heard stories. So just keep yourself safe. And then, do you guys have any questions? But I do also have a few more things to say before I get into that. It's not, I think some of us have a stereotype in our mind of who we think a drug user may be. It may be somebody that's unhoused. It may be people that you've seen before. Like I said, it was my mom for me. My mom was a fully, for the most part, for a long time, functioning stay-at-home parent. People in our community didn't know. It took a really long time for my dad to realize that there was an issue until she got fired from her job at a dermatology clinic because it was found that she was stealing the doctor's script pads. Nobody knew before then. Like this fully functioning member of the community, and suddenly when she's getting sent to rehab, people realize that she has a problem. So it could be your kids. My dad works in construction. That field has a really high rate of drug use. And they found a 23-year-old, which is the same age as me, overdosed in a porta potty in the middle of a work shift. And so it's stuff like this where it is people that you would likely never expect. So it's just really important to kind of, and people are good at keeping secrets. This isn't a surprise. People keep alcohol use secrets. People keep infidelity secrets, but it is just something to keep in mind where if you can keep Narcan on you, I hope that you never have to use it on your own family or friends, but you may have to at some point. So that's just a very serious, very sobering thing. Arkansas has the 5th highest rate of death for opioid overdoses in our entire country. And we do see opioid use across all 50 states, but it is very heavily concentrated in the South, and especially like the Appalachian areas, because of coal miners, people that just have no other access to routine medical care and stuff like that. So are there any questions for us?
What would be the typical reason for someone to carry it on them?
I actually don't see that there isn't a reason. Liz, like I said, thank you, Liz, I'm on the board of Arkansas Women's Outreach with her. It keeps this in her car. It is good to have on you at any point. It is a tiny bit less effective if it's kept like in high temperatures in the summer, but if that's more convenient with you, that's how I keep mine as well. You can keep it in your car if you have room in a purse or a bag. You can keep it with you. Like the nasal Narcans are kind of bulky, but you can take them out of that box and they become a lot more slim. So there, in my opinion, is not a reason to keep them on you unless you are just super averse to the idea.
What's it cost and how do you get them?
So you can actually get them through us for free. Like I said, so sorry that I don't have my box with me. We actually, when we do events like this, we do bring boxes of nasal Narcan just to hand out for everybody to have on them. Like I said, we don't have them right now, but I can, if anybody's interested, I can give you our hotline number. You can just text it and say that you're interested in getting some, and then you can drop by our office space. And we will give you as many as you would like. If you want to keep it in your car, if you want to take it to your job, if your job has multiple branches, we can get that set up. It is entirely free for the community to get it through us.
Where's your office?
It's off of Chico Road. I am terrible with directions. I don't know what part of Little Rock that's in. I go where Google Maps tells me. Okay, it's in Southwest Arkansas, but
Southwest Little Rock. It's called
Southwest. Sorry. Yes, but I'll give you this number if you're interested in getting some of it.
What's the shelf life?
So they can last up to 10 years, and then after that, they do expire within that time frame. But once again, research and studies have shown that it is marginally less effective even within that time frame. And so I have had people tell me, "Oh, my Narcan said that it expired 2 years ago. Still use it, still keep it. After 10 years, it's probably good to replace, but it's not something that you." I don't know, it's not like an air filter on your house that you have to set a time, like a reminder to replace every 3 months or something. Yeah, you can, I keep it in my car and I forget about it, so, yes.
You mentioned that the nasal spray can be expected to work in about 60 to 90 seconds.
Yes.
And that's probably about the same as the injection version, so
yes.
Is everything kind of going in the nasal spray direction here?
Typically, yes. Like I said, the tricky part of it is the nasal ones are unfortunately more expensive. That's not an issue for us. We do have funding that covers it. But for, like I said, for our clients who are already using drugs, it does help us a little bit to give the intramuscular naloxone. But for people that I'm assuming may not be using or have experience using injectable drugs, we do give nasal Narcan. Because we've heard that it does make people feel more comfortable in taking it in the potential case that they may have to administer it. So yeah, I would say I do see things going more towards nasal Narcan, but it is just like there is a cost barrier sometimes, unfortunately, for that.
I have a question too, but I just wanted to tell you, I had fentanyl when I had my heart cath done. And in researching that, the reason that people are putting it in other illicit drugs, or the illicit version of it, is because it acts so quick. But the problem with that is it also goes away so quick. So someone who's buying cocaine from one guy and gets another guy's cocaine that's got fentanyl in it will think he's gotten a better brand of cocaine because all of a sudden the high happens first. Have you guys been affected any by the executive orders ending grants and funding?
Luckily, not so far. Our primary grant is through the Arkansas Department of Health, and they get their funding once a year and then give it out to us. But we do also a lot of our own individual fundraisers, so we're luckily not solely reliant on grants in any way. I handle a lot of our fundraising stuff. Also, yeah, luckily so far we have not been. But a lot of nonprofits are kind of worried about what that will look like for the future for a lot of organizations like us who do focus. I mean, this is equity-based in a lot of ways, providing services to everyone, so especially the DEI bans where a lot of our clients come from lower income communities. We have to really be careful about how we're writing grants.
So my oldest son is 7, and my biggest fear is he's gonna get into drugs. Happened to my wife's close cousin who died from an overdose. But for me, my life is totally outside of drugs. So my fear is that, while I have the sympathy, I don't have that developed sense of empathy, I guess, to really understand. Is there, I guess, like a book, movie, something that'll help me bridge that gap to understand?
That is a great question. So a book that I read recently is called Do No Harm. I don't have my phone on me to look it up, but it is called Do No Harm, and it is about the opioid epidemic, and I think it helps really humanize people that are struggling with substance abuse. So like I said, for me, it was my mom. I know who my mom is as a person, but if you are kind of outside of that, there's also, it's on Hulu, and there's a documentary on Hulu that's about the cause of it as well. And so I think it is kind of it helps to realize that it's not, people's choice to use drugs the first time is their choice, but studies have shown that especially fentanyl and opioids actively change your brain's wiring to crave opioids more, to have, there's a reason that it is like one of the most addictive forms of drugs. And so I think just having the information behind why people get addicted, why people choose to use drugs, that can kind of help empathize with people. And then also, if you ever wanted to volunteer with us, you're welcome to come to some of the communities that we work with. They're just normal people that have at some point made a poor choice for whatever reason and are now unfortunately suffering through the consequences of it. Just like, I think we're all, what's the saying, like a lot of us are one missed paycheck away from possibly being homeless, or a lot of us are one bad decision away from jail. These are just the consequences that people live with now is substance abuse. So yeah.
Thank you.
I recommend Dope Sick. Michael Keaton stars in it.
Oh, that's the one on Hulu. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fabulous and really helps empathize with why a lot of people got addicted.
Okay, that helps.
And this is maybe not a question that, is aligned with your presentation necessarily, but in terms of, thinking about root causes and thinking about how, regular people end up addicted to opioids, the example of being prescribed them is a common pathway. But, you know that a lot of construction workers who get into this because, well, they end up with chronic back injuries or, chronic pain from having very physically demanding jobs, and then they, go looking for a way to to deal with that pain. So to what extent do you think, that kind of person being unable to get medical care, such as maybe they don't have a good insurance plan so that they can get their, slipped disc in their back fixed, to what extent does that maybe put them on a path where they can only use pain medicines, which are cheap, to deal with the pain, and they can't get health care? Or, you mentioned the pharmaceutical industry, pushing opioids, and, I had a surgery last summer that got, 3 stitches. I got prescribed 20 oxycodone pills, and I didn't take any of them because I've heard. And so, I don't know, just kind of, I wonder what kind of social systems, including the lack of any ability to get, free recovery treatment or, addiction therapy. How does all those ecosystem factors feed into this, maybe?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the simplest response is it does feed into each other. It is like a very intersectional, circular issue where poor people can't access healthcare. Poor people are still in pain from their jobs. So my dad works in construction. He is 46 and has had a double knee replacement, still routinely works 6-hour days, 12 to 14 hours a day in the field. He himself has also struggled with addiction, but it was more towards alcohol. But when people work in construction, you can get healthcare through construction. Our healthcare system is a joke with insurance. Regardless of if you have insurance or not, it can still be incredibly expensive to access the care that you need. And so oftentimes accessing street drugs, like pain pills or any other drugs off the street, is cheaper. Like I said, that's one of the reasons that we see it a lot in the Appalachian area where the coal mines are. So you have people working very hard, very labor-intensive jobs. They're in pain. And so either they're using substances to cope with that, or because they genuinely have no other option. Recovery services are not cheap, and it's not a one and done. Took my mom 3 times in rehab at different locations in different states to eventually achieve sobriety. And everyone is also different. I also choose not to take pain pills. Some people just genetically do struggle with addiction, so hearing that you have it in your family, there is a chance that genetically you said it was your wife's cousin?
Yeah.
Your wife could have a higher predisposition to addiction just based off of genetics. And so I know with both of my parents having struggled with different addictions, I had my wisdom teeth taken out. It's really common to get opioids from that. I would not take them because I know that I have that risk. So I think it's a little bit about people knowing their family histories, but even if you know that you have addiction in your family history and you're poor, what other options do you have? Same thing for people that are unhoused. I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to give them money because they would just spend it on drugs. Even if they do, they're probably miserable like that. It is so cold outside. We had people freeze to death just this past month. And it's a really tough existence. It does not surprise me that people turn to substances to cope with that. Or even, like I said, my mom, she spiraled because she was in an unhappy marriage and couldn't cope, didn't have access to therapy, was still dealing with postpartum depression like 6 years after I was born. And there were no mental health services surrounding her that could help her with that. And so there are so many reasons that people can get into substance use, but we do oftentimes find that it's low-income people that don't have access to quality medical care. Hopefully that answered. Okay. Nice. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Lauren, appreciate that. Unfortunately, we don't have a medical system that is just free for everybody. It'd be nice, or even at a minimal amount. Appreciate you coming and telling us, giving us that information. I'd like to point out that we have several events going on every month, and one of them I'd like to point out is my favorite, which is Second Sunday Cantina Communion. It's communion with quotation marks around that. And that is at Cantina Cinco de Mayo on Stagecoach Road. Yes, that's Cantina Cinco de Mayo on Stagecoach Road, 6 p.m. every second Sunday.
substitute tequila for?
Well, if you like, you can substitute tequila for the wine. Yes, there you go. Also, every first Tuesday, we have just to get together over at American Pie Pizza in North Little Rock. That's in the, what's the name of that shopping center?
Same shopping center that Kroger is.
The same shopping center that Kroger is in North Little Rock off of McCain.
Right behind Waffle House.
Yeah, behind Waffle House, yeah. Okay, and that's a 5:30 every first Tuesday. And then we also have which tomorrow night is the third Monday. Is that correct, Bern? Every third Monday
Yes.
at Flying Saucer at 7:30, I believe it is.
Yes.
No, 7 p.m. 7.
7.
Yes, 7 p.m. And then also we have, let's see, first Tuesday and Friday. Oh, and we also have an event, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but we have an event right here on every third Sunday at 1 o'clock. And supposedly that's where you are right now. So hope you made it. And with that, do we have any other news or anything else anybody wants to tell us about? Okay, well, I have one more question. I have a question. What is a femoral? Does everybody know what a femoral artery is? I'm going to put my hand down. And what's the other artery?
The femoral artery is the femoral artery is the main artery that goes down to your leg, and it is accessed through your groin.
Growing what?
Your groin.
Oh, groin, through your groin, okay. All right, well, what was the other one? It was cardio? Carotid artery. All right.
And the radial artery is the one in the wrist.
Radial artery. Well, I got to tell you, Bern is a tough guy. He's been working on a while. Anyway, we appreciate you all here, coming here and watching the show, I guess you would say the live stream. And we will see you again next third Sunday at 1 o'clock here at the UU Church on Reservoir Road, 1818 Reservoir Road. See you then.
Yeah, I know she's good. It's gonna be great.
She's close with